The unexpected path. The galaxy was full of records about the rise and fall of civilizations. Most species followed the same path. They learned how to send signals faster than light. Then they built teleporters or warp drives. And only after centuries of peace and study did they create powerful weapons. It was always the same order, the same slow progress. That was why humanity confused everyone. The first official reports about Earth reached the Galactic Council with mild interest. Humans were noisy, divided, and emotional, not very different from other young races. The Council thought they would take the safe path, copying what thousands of other species had done before. But when human ships left their solar system, the galaxy quickly saw something strange. Humanity did not chase teleporters. They did not pour their energy into peaceful shortcuts or graceful technology. Instead, they built massive railguns, weapons that hurled solid projectiles at speeds that made even alien sensors shake. The decision looked primitive, almost foolish. Yet when the first test was broadcast, no one was laughing anymore. The railgun test took place near the asteroid belt. The human ship carried a weapon longer than 3 city blocks, its barrel glowing with stored energy. Alien spies recorded every detail, certain they would mock it later. But when the human commander gave the order, the projectile fired in less than a blink. The asteroid split into 2 glowing halves, each piece spinning away with deadly speed. The shockwave made nearby ships rattle, and the recording spread across the stars like fire. On dozens of alien worlds, leaders gathered in panic. Why would a young race spend so much effort on such terrifying weapons? Why not teleporters? Why not shields? Why not diplomacy? The answer was unclear, but one truth was certain. Humanity was unpredictable. Unpredictable was dangerous. Some species dismissed it, calling it a human mistake. Others whispered in fear, remembering stories of ancient wars long before the Council was formed. What if humans were not building in the right order? What if they were breaking the rules of progress itself? Back on Earth, the humans celebrated their success. For them, it was not about terrifying the galaxy. It was about survival. They remembered their own history. The wars, the invasions, the endless struggle to stay alive. Human leaders decided long ago that they would never allow anyone to push them around. If the stars were full of dangers, then Earth would need weapons strong enough to match any empire. The Galactic Council debated for weeks. Some argued to restrict human expansion. Others said to welcome them, hoping to guide their progress. But fear was louder than reason. One council member described humanity with shaking words. They built railguns before teleporters. What will they build next? The galaxy had seen powerful species before, but power usually came slowly, carefully, predictably. Humanity had taken a wild turn, skipping steps, breaking the pattern. It was like watching a child suddenly wield a blade sharper than any master's. And that blade was now pointed at the stars. Alien merchants who visited Earth returned with nervous stories. They told of human factories building more railguns, larger every month. They described soldiers training with fierce discipline, preparing for wars that had not even begun, and they warned that humans smiled while doing it. It was not madness, it was confidence. That confidence made the galaxy shiver. One empire, the Thalari Dominion, laughed openly at first. They said railguns were simple toys, weapons of stone and iron. But when their scouts saw what those toys did to asteroids, their laughter ended. The Thalari ruler ordered secret plans to watch Earth more closely. The seeds of fear were planted deep on Earth. Humans did not know the full scale of alien panic. They only knew they were making history. The first railgun ship, named Hammer of Dawn, became a symbol of human pride. Children drew it in schools. Workers carved its image on walls. The railgun was not just a weapon. It was proof that humanity could shape its own path, a path different from all others. But deep inside the council chambers, darker conversations began. What if humanity's strange path brought war to the galaxy? What if their unpredictable minds built something worse than railguns? Some whispered about strikes, about ending Earth before it grew too strong. Others warned that such a strike might fail, and then humanity would come with vengeance. No matter the choice, fear guided every word, and so, as the stars watched, a new story began. A story of a species that refused to follow the expected road. A species that built weapons before peace. Power before shortcuts, survival before trust. The galaxy called it madness. But humanity called it preparation. It was the unexpected path. The first test, the Hammer of Dawn, drifted in silence above Earth. It was the first ship of its kind, built not for exploration but for power. Its railgun stretched like a steel spine, glowing with energy as the crew prepared. Inside the control room, Captain Marcus stood tall, his voice steady but his heart racing. "Target locked," the weapons officer whispered, his hands shaking over the console. The asteroid was large enough to flatten a city. A perfect test millions of humans watched from Earth. Screens glowing across homes, bars, and schools. For humanity. This was not just a test, it was proof. Proof that their path was right when the order came. The railgun screamed, a single projectile. Nothing but metal and mass. Shot forward faster than the eye could follow in silence. Space tore as the asteroid cracked like glass. The halves split apart, glowing bright with the force of impact. Even those who expected power gasped, their breath stolen by the sight. Alien spies who recorded the moment sent their data across the stars. On distant worlds, council members watched with dread. One called it primitive, another called it genius. But all agreed it was terrifying. The power was raw, unstoppable, and too simple to counter. Railguns ignored shields. Shields were built for beams, for plasma, for energy weapons. But a railgun hurled physical death, a chunk of metal that moved too fast to stop. Even the most advanced barrier flickered uselessly as calculations confirmed the truth. Railguns would cut through them like a knife through cloth. Back on Earth, the celebration grew wild. Children cheered, leaders raised glasses, and soldiers saluted the image of the asteroid breaking apart. But for Captain Marcus and his crew, the moment was heavier. They knew they had fired the first shot in a new era, not against an enemy, but against history itself. They had broken the pattern, and patterns hated being broken. On the other side of the galaxy, whispers turned into shouts. The Thalari Dominion demanded immediate restrictions on Earth. The Veari Syndicate argued that humans should be invited into the Council quickly, before fear turned to war, but no one agreed. Fear grew larger than reason. Merchants who passed Earth carried back stories of strange human pride. Factories thundered day and night. Every new ship was rumored to carry a railgun, each one larger than the last. The galaxy began to call them iron hurlers, names filled with both respect and dread. Still, some alien leaders mocked. They claimed teleporters were the true mark of progress. They believed humanity would stay weak without faster-than-light movement. What use were railguns if ships crawled between stars like ants? But these leaders forgot the truth. Humanity was never afraid of crawling. Humanity was patient. And patience combined with weapons was more frightening than speed. Captain Marcus received a message one night, encrypted and strange. It came from a source the Council never admitted existed, a warning hidden in static. "They are watching you, they are afraid of you. Do not stop building." He read it again and again, feeling a chill he could not explain. The crew of the Hammer of Dawn continued their drills. Every test hit harder, every projectile flew straighter. They aimed at moons, at derelict stations, at hollow satellites. Each strike proved the same thing. Railguns were not toys. They were doom given form, and humanity now had doom in their hands. On Mars, new shipyards rose, red dust swirling around towers of steel on the moon. Bases echoed with the sound of hammers and sparks. Earth was uniting in a way no alien thought possible. War had always divided humans, but the stars pulled them together. Together they built with fury. Together they dreamed of defense. Together they whispered about revenge against anyone who might try to chain them. Aliens who had once dismissed Earth as harmless now marked it as a threat. The Galactic Council argued endlessly. Some demanded blockade, some spoke of secret sabotage, but others looked deeper. They realized something chilling. Humanity was not building weapons to attack, they were building weapons to survive, and a species that feared extinction was capable of anything. The first test of the railgun had shaken the galaxy, not just because of the asteroid's destruction, but because of what it meant. The galaxy's order, its comfortable ladder of progress, had been broken. The child with the blade was now sharpening it, smiling as they worked, and everyone wondered what the next cut would look like. Captain Marcus looked out the viewport, watching stars glitter across endless black. He knew the test was only the beginning. He could almost feel the weight of alien eyes pressing against Earth, and deep inside a quiet thought grew. If they fear us now, what will they do when they see what comes next? The Hammer of Dawn floated on, its barrel cooling, but in the silence of space, the echoes of that single shot spread forever. It was the sound of humanity's first step on an unexpected path, a step that shook the galaxy awake and warned it that nothing would ever be the same again. The fear spreads. Across the stars, the story of the Hammer of Dawn echoed like thunder. Merchants told the tale in crowded spaceports, their voices shaking. They spoke of a young race that had split an asteroid with one shot. They spoke of a weapon that ignored shields and tore matter apart with brute force. Every listener felt the same chill. Humanity had done something no one expected. In the shining chambers of the Galactic Council, panic spread. Delegates argued day and night, their voices sharp and desperate. One shouted that humans must be stopped before they grew stronger. Another insisted that war would only provoke them. The chamber, once filled with calm debates, now trembled with fear. The Thalari Dominion began secret meetings with its admirals. They remembered how the railgun blast shredded stone in silence. They imagined it shredding their fleets instead. For centuries, the Thalari had relied on shields to dominate lesser races. Now those shields looked fragile. They whispered of preemptive strikes, of ending humanity before the threat grew too large. Meanwhile, the Vayari Syndicate chose a different path. They sent spies to Earth, not to sabotage, but to understand. Reports came back with unsettling truths. Humans were not only building railguns, they were building unity. Nations that had fought endless wars on Earth were now working together. Factories in rival cities shared designs. Scientists from different lands stood side by side. The Vayari leader said the words no one wanted to hear. They are preparing not just for war, but for survival. On peaceful worlds, ordinary citizens felt unease. They asked why a young species would create such destructive power so early. Some believed humans were savages who would burn the stars. Others believed they were visionaries who saw threats the galaxy ignored, but all agreed on one thing. Humanity was dangerous. Alien media networks filled the void with fear. Hollow screens showed endless replays of the asteroid's destruction. Analysts drew diagrams of fleets being torn apart by invisible projectiles. Children on distant worlds had nightmares of humans pointing giant cannons at their skies. Even those who had never seen Earth began to whisper the same words. The humans are different. Back on Earth, the fear of aliens reached human leaders too. The messages intercepted from alien channels made intentions clear. Talk of blockades, talk of attacks, talk of containment. Humans knew the galaxy was circling like predators, and so they built faster. Factories doubled shifts. Engineers worked through nights. The sound of hammering and welding echoed like a heartbeat of war. In the shadows, rumors of sabotage began. A supply station on Mars caught fire under strange circumstances. A cargo vessel vanished between Earth and the Moon. Human intelligence officers suspected alien hands, yet they found no proof. The paranoia grew. If aliens feared humans, they would not wait forever. Among the alien powers, smaller species trembled. They remembered what had happened in past ages when new powers rose. Many had been crushed, enslaved, or erased. They wondered if standing near humanity would bring safety or destruction. Some even sent secret envoys to Earth. They begged for protection, hoping the humans would shield them if war came. For the first time, humanity was not the one asking for help. They were the one others turned to. In the great library worlds, scholars tried to calm the panic. They searched ancient records for other species that had broken the pattern, but none existed. No one had ever built such weapons before teleporters. No one had chosen iron over light. It was as if humanity had stepped onto a road no map could explain. That mystery frightened the wise more than the weapons themselves. Captain Marcus of the Hammer of Dawn felt the pressure too. Every time his ship docked at Earth, crowds greeted him as a hero, but he saw the fear in their eyes. They knew war was coming. Not because humans wanted it, but because fear itself was a weapon, and the galaxy was already firing it. In a council meeting, one delegate whispered the thought that others feared to say aloud. What if they are not inventing railguns because they cannot build teleporters? What if they will never make the next step? What if all they have is destruction? The words spread like a poison, painting humanity not as survivors, but as monsters waiting to strike. And yet, the truth was far more dangerous, for even as the galaxy spread fear, humanity's scientists were already close to teleportation breakthroughs. The day railguns fired was the same day teleporters neared perfection. The galaxy thought humans had chosen iron over light, but in secret, they were about to have both. As fear spread, alliances shifted. Some empires prepared weapons, others prepared treaties, but all eyes turned to Earth, a small blue world that had shaken the order of the galaxy, a world that no longer looked weak, a world whose future would decide everyone's fate. The fear spread like fire, and once fear burns, it cannot be put out. It only waits for the spark that will turn whispers into war, the first war. The fear that spread across the galaxy could not stay as whispers forever. Fear always turns into action, and the action finally came. The Thalari Dominion, proud and arrogant, was the first to strike. They gathered a fleet of warships larger than any humanity had ever seen. 50 massive carriers, 200 destroyers, and countless escorts. Their commanders believed it would be quick. They believed Earth would fall before the railguns could make a difference. The Galactic Council watched in silence. Some secretly hoped the Thalari would succeed, removing the human threat. Others prayed they would fail, fearing what would happen if they pushed humans too far. No one dared to warn Earth. The galaxy waited for blood, but Earth was not blind. Human intelligence had intercepted enough signals to know the strike was coming. Factories had not been building railguns for show. Ships had not been drilling for nothing. When the Thalari fleet jumped into the edge of the solar system, the humans were waiting. The Hammer of Dawn led the defense, its massive railgun already charged. Beside it floated new ships, each armed with even more powerful cannons. The human fleet looked small compared to the alien armada, but size did not matter anymore. Range did, and humans had range. The Thalari admiral gave the order to advance. He expected the humans to scatter, to hide, to crumble. Instead, the first railgun fired. A single slug cut across the void, striking a destroyer before the Thalari even raised shields. The ship split in half, burning silently in the dark. The admiral's confidence cracked, then the sky lit up. Railgun after railgun fired, streaks of deadly metal ripping across space. The Thalari shields flickered uselessly. Their ships, designed to resist beams and plasma, fell like glass under hammers. Carriers exploded, escorts shattered. One by one, the proud fleet dissolved. Inside the Hammer of Dawn, Captain Marcus kept his voice steady. Hold formation, fire in sequence, show them what Earth can do. Every shot echoed not just as destruction, but as a message. Humanity was no longer prey. Humanity was the predator. Across Earth, the battle was broadcast live. Billions held their breath as alien ships died in silence. Children clutched their parents. Soldiers clenched their fists. Every explosion in the sky was proof that humans could stand against giants. Every hattered enemy was a warning to the galaxy. The Thalari admiral tried to retreat, but teleporters jammed. Their technology was flawless against others, but not against raw chaos. Human slugs tore through engines and cores. Retreat became impossible. The fleet was trapped in a storm of iron. When the final Thalari ship cracked apart, silence filled the solar system. The battle had lasted less than an hour. An empire's pride had been erased in moments, and the galaxy watched, horrified. For the Council, the truth was undeniable. The humans had defeated a fleet that should have crushed them. Not with numbers, not with teleporters, but with will and iron. The old balance of power was gone. A new one was rising. Back on Earth, the celebrations were loud but heavy. Families cheered, but they also wept for the human lives lost. The price was not small, but the victory was undeniable. Humanity had fought its first galactic war, and it had won. On alien worlds, leaders trembled. Some began building alliances, desperate to contain humanity. Others whispered of peace, hoping to survive by joining with Earth, but none could deny the truth. The humans were no longer a curiosity, they were a storm. In the shadows, scientists continued their secret work. While the galaxy focused on railguns, humanity was finishing something else, something that would break the last illusion of alien superiority. Teleporters were almost ready, and when they came, humanity would not just strike hard, they would strike anywhere, anytime, without warning. Captain Marcus stood at the viewport of the Hammer of Dawn. The wreckage of the alien fleet drifted before him, glowing softly in the black. He thought of the council chambers, of the whispers, of the fear. He knew this battle was not the end. It was only the spark. The war had been forced upon them. But now the galaxy would never forget the answer Earth gave. The unexpected path was no lie. Anger just strange. It was deadly, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The teleporter shock, the wreckage of the Thalari fleet still drifted across the void when whispers began to change. The galaxy had seen humanity's iron, their terrifying railguns, their power to shatter fleets. But many comforted themselves with a single thought. At least they cannot move fast. They told themselves humans were chained to slow engines, crawling between stars. If the galaxy stayed united, they could surround and crush Earth before railguns reached their worlds. That comfort did not last. On Mars, deep inside hidden laboratories, human scientists worked in silence. While engineers forged more railguns, another team bent their minds to something different. Teleportation had been studied for decades, always out of reach. But war brought focus, fear brought urgency, and humans were masters of working under pressure. At first, the breakthroughs seemed small, moving a coin across a room, teleporting a tool from one lab to another. But step by step, the impossible became real. Energy costs dropped, stability improved, and then one night, the first human soldier vanished from Earth and appeared on the moon. He stood in shock, breathing hard, staring at Earth glowing blue above him. The test was a success. Word spread quickly among human leaders. The railguns had given them power, but teleporters would give them freedom. No longer would they crawl between stars like ants. Now they could leap. Now they could strike anywhere. When the first demonstration went public, the galaxy froze. Human scientists stepped onto a stage in front of Earth's leaders. They showed live footage of a tank, its massive frame surrounded by glowing coils. With a single command, the tank vanished in light. In the next instant, it appeared miles away, still running, its gun still aimed. The crowd erupted in cheers. Across alien worlds, silence fell. Council chambers shook with dread. One delegate slammed his hands on the table, his voice breaking. "This is madness. They built railguns before teleporters, and now they have both." Another whispered the fear everyone felt. "They skipped centuries of progress. They are out of order. We cannot predict them." For the Thalari, the survivors of their broken fleet, the news was like poison. They had mocked Earth, then bled under human iron. Now, the idea of humans teleporting troops directly into their capital made them tremble. Paranoia spread, fleets pulled back, defenses doubled, but even their strongest fortresses felt weak. Railguns could shatter them from afar. Teleporters could bypass them entirely. Meanwhile, humanity wasted no time. Military drills began where soldiers appeared behind enemy lines in seconds. Engineers learned to teleport supplies, weapons, even medical units. Generals smiled grimly. A weapon that could strike was powerful, but a weapon that could strike and move faster than fear was unstoppable. Captain Marcus of the Hammer of Dawn watched the new teleporters with awe. He remembered the first railgun shot, the first asteroid split in silence. Now he saw soldiers stepping through glowing gates like walking across a street. He felt pride, but also a chill. He knew what this meant for the galaxy. If they had feared humanity before, now they would panic, and panic was more dangerous than war. In hidden corners, alien leaders plotted. Some argued to unite and crush humanity before teleporters spread. Others whispered that it was already too late. No empire could stop them now. To fight Earth was to fight the impossible. For ordinary aliens, the fear became personal. Children asked if humans could appear in their homes without warning. Merchants feared human ships blinking into trade lanes. Even mighty warlords dreamed of human railgun shots apiece. Airing above their palaces, fear spread faster than light, and fear changed everything. On Earth, humanity celebrated, but leaders knew the truth. Every invention carried a cost. Every leap made the galaxy's eyes grow sharper, and every new power brought them closer to the edge of a greater war. Still, humanity did not stop. They had chosen survival, and survival demanded strength. When the council met again, the chambers rang with desperation. One delegate shouted, "They have broken the ladder. They are not climbing, they are jumping. How do we fight that?" Another whispered, "Maybe we cannot." Silence followed. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy admitted it might not be the strongest voice anymore, and so the humans stood at the center of a storm, with iron in one hand and light in the other, with weapons no one could stop and movement no one could match. They had turned the galaxy's fear into truth. The unexpected path had become unstoppable. The railguns had shaken the stars, the teleporters had terrified them, and together they promised a future the galaxy had never imagined, a future where humanity was no longer behind, a future where humanity could lead. The teleporter shock was complete, and the galaxy would never sleep easy again. The galaxy trembles. The galaxy had seen wars before. It had seen weapons rise and fall, empires grow and collapse, but what humanity brought was different. It was not just power, it was unpredictability, and unpredictability was the one thing the galaxy feared most. Railguns had broken fleets, teleporters had broken distance. Now both together broke the galaxy's sense of safety. On the capital world of the Thalari Dominion, fear turned to chaos. Citizens rioted in the streets, terrified that humans could appear in their skies at any moment. The Dominion's generals promised protection, but their words rang hollow. Every soldier remembered the sight of their fleet shattering under human slugs. Every child remembered the broadcasts of teleporting tanks. Faith in their empire began to crumble. In the Vayari Syndicate, fear took a different shape. Instead of rioting, their markets collapsed. Merchants refused to send ships into human trade lanes. Insurance rates for vessels near Earth skyrocketed. Even whispers of a human fleet nearby made entire sectors shut down. Trade, the lifeblood of the Syndicate, bled out in silence. Meanwhile, smaller species panicked in their own ways. Some begged for alliances with stronger empires. Others secretly sent envoys to Earth, offering resources, ships, even soldiers. They believed siding with humans might be safer than standing against them, and in doing so, they unknowingly gave humanity its first allies. Inside the Galactic Council, the chambers cracked under pressure. For centuries, it had been a place of order, where voices argued but always found balance. Now, it became a battlefield of words. Some delegates screamed for war, others begged for peace. Every session ended in shouting, every decision ended in nothing. And in the silence of inaction, humanity grew stronger. On Earth, leaders watched the chaos with cold eyes. They knew the galaxy trembled. They knew fear was both weapon and shield, but they also knew fear could turn into a blade aimed back at them. So they prepared. New fleets were built, each one with railguns and teleporters combined. Soldiers trained to appear on alien worlds within seconds. Factories poured fire and iron into space. The sound of human determination echoed across planets. Captain Marcus of the Hammer of Dawn felt the shift more than anyone. Where once alien ships shadowed his vessel with arrogance, now they kept their distance. Where once alien captains greeted him with mocking smiles, now they avoided his gaze. He could feel the weight of their fear pressing on him. It was not victory, it was warning. Among alien empires, desperate plans formed in secret. The Thalari Dominion Sea. On-sitered building weapons that bent gravity itself, the Vayari Syndicate looked for mercenaries willing to sabotage human shipyards. Others whispered of awakening ancient machines hidden in forgotten systems. Each plan carried risk, each plan carried fear, none carried certainty, and through it all, humanity kept walking its strange road, unbothered by patterns, unafraid of tradition. They marched forward as if destiny itself had bent to their will. On distant worlds, alien citizens argued in taverns and marketplaces. Some said humans would save the galaxy. Others swore they would destroy it. But no one doubted that humans would change it. Change was already here. The council called one final emergency session. The chamber was filled with trembling voices. One delegate shouted, "They built railguns before teleporters. What if they build something worse next?" Another whispered, "They already have something worse. They have unity." For humanity's greatest weapon was not iron nor light. It was the fact that billions of humans, once divided by nations and wars, now stood as one, and a united Earth was something no empire had ever faced. Captain Marcus listened to the broadcasts. He knew the galaxy trembled, but he also knew trembling could lead to rash choices. Some empire, somewhere, would make a mistake, and when they did, humanity would answer. He stared at the stars and whispered a quiet truth to himself. They are afraid of us, but soon they will be afraid of what we become. The galaxy trembled, not just because of what humanity had, but because of what they might create next, and that fear was the greatest power of all. The new order. The galaxy trembled, but it could not tremble forever. Fear had to become something, and so every empire waited for humanity's next move. Would they conquer? Would they destroy? Would they demand tribute? No one knew, and that ignorance was sharper than any blade. On Earth, leaders gathered in a chamber built of steel and glass. Generals, scientists, captains, and workers stood together. They had railguns that could split fleets, teleporters that could move armies, and now the galaxy stared at them with wide, frightened eyes. It was time to decide what message humanity would send. Captain Marcus of the Hammer of Dawn was among them. He had seen the first asteroid break, he had seen the first fleet fall, and now he would see the first words of a new age spoken. The decision was not simple. Some demanded conquest. They argued that the galaxy already feared humans, so striking now would ensure dominance. Others demanded peace. They argued that Earth had bled enough, that survival was victory. But most agreed on one truth. Humanity could not step back. The galaxy would never allow it. They had to step forward. When the broadcast came, every screen in the galaxy flickered alive. On distant worlds, aliens froze in markets and homes. On warships, admirals silenced their crews. On council chambers, delegates leaned forward with trembling hands. Humanity was about to speak. The image was clear. A human leader stood before the galaxy, her eyes steady, her voice calm. She spoke in simple words, translated into 100 tongues. "We are humanity. We built railguns before teleporters, and you call us unpredictable." Her voice carried like thunder. "You fear us because we do not walk the same road you did, but we will not apologize for it." Aliens held their breath as her words continued. "We do not seek to enslave, we do not seek to conquer, but we will never bow. We built weapons to survive. We built teleporters to endure. We will not be prey. We will not be erased." On alien worlds, silence stretched long and heavy. Some felt relief, others felt anger, but all felt respect. For the first time in ages, a young race had not begged, had not apologized, had not asked permission. They had declared their place with iron in hand. Then came the promise. "If you come to us in peace, you will find an ally. If you come to us in fear, you will find a wall. If you come to us in war, you will find your fleets broken. This is our path, and we will walk it together or alone." The words echoed across stars. The council chamber filled with murmurs. Some delegates wept, others clenched their fists, but none could deny that the galaxy had changed. On Earth, billions cheered. On Mars, workers pounded their hammers in rhythm. On the moon, soldiers raised their fists to the sky. Humanity had spoken, and the galaxy had listened. In the following months, something strange happened. Some smaller empires began to approach Earth openly. They asked for alliances, for trade, for protection. Not out of love, but out of respect, for the galaxy understood a new truth. Humanity was not just another species climbing the ladder. Humanity had built a new ladder, and everyone would now climb it or fall. Captain Marcus watched the change with quiet pride. His ship still floated with railguns armed, teleporters humming, but fewer and fewer alien ships came with threats. More came with cautious greetings. He knew wars would still come. He knew fear would not vanish. But he also knew humanity had done something no one believed possible. They had forced the galaxy to see them, and as stars burned above, Marcus whispered to himself, "This is only the beginning." Because the new order was not about railguns, not about teleporters, it was about choice. A choice to stand, the choice to survive, the choice to shape destiny, and humanity had made its choice clear. The galaxy was no longer the same. It would never be the same again, for humanity had stepped onto the stage of history, and in their hands was the power to shatter or to save. The galaxy trembled still, but now it trembled with awe as much as fear. The new order had begun.